Hi guys, and welcome to the video notes for Chapter 2, Lesson 5 for percent of change. Make sure you have the following notes in front of you and that you are copying everything that is on the video. What will I learn? Today you're going to learn how to find the percent of increase and decrease and how to find percent error. So first of all, let's talk about what a percent change is. A percent of change is a ratio that compares the change in quantity to the original amount. So percent of change could be either positive or negative. So if the percent is positive, the percent of change is an increase, and if the percent is negative, the percent of change is called a percent of decrease. So again, we said that percent of change is a ratio. So it's going to be the change in the quantity over the original quantity. Remember, ratios could be written as fractions, and then we reduce by dividing. So there's steps to find the percent of change, whether it's an increase or a decrease. First, you're going to subtract to find the amount of change. Then we're going to write a ratio that compares the amount of change to the original amount. And then we want to change the decimal to a percent by multiplying by 100. Okay, so example 1 says find the percent of change from 75 yards to 54 yards. So the first thing you should kind of do is we're going from 75 to 54. Identify it as an increase or a decrease. So 75 to 54, it's getting less. So this is going to be a decrease. So just have that in the back of your head. So to find out what that percentage comes out to, we're going to write a ratio. So the first thing we want to do is we want to subtract. Okay, so I am going to do 75 minus 54. And 75 minus 54, that'll give me the amount of change. That's a decrease of 21. So second thing that I want to do is I'm going to put the amount of change over the original amount. So I'm going to take this 21 and I'm going to write 21 over the original amount. So again, the original amount is what we started with, which is 75. So I put it over 75. So let's make a little note. Right here is the amount of change. And that is getting written over the original amount. So then step 3, we're going to divide. So we have 21 divided by 75. And when I put that in my calculator, because you want to use a calculator on this, 21 divided by 75, I come up with 0.28. So I subtracted, I put the amount of change over the original amount, I divided, got 28 hundredths. The last step is I want to change this to a percent. So I'm going to take 0.28, and to make a percent, or I'm sorry, a decimal into percent, we go to the right. So that means it's going to be a 28% decrease. So let me show you that again. Hold on. So example 2 says find the percent of change from 22 to 16 inches. So again, we want to translate that into a percentage. So I'm noticing it goes from 22 to 16, so that's going to be a decrease. So step 1, you're going to subtract. We want to find the amount of change. So I'm going to take 22, and I'm going to subtract 16, and that's going to give me 6. Second step, you're going to put the amount of change, which is 6, over the original amount. So the original amount is 22, because that's what we started with there. And then I'm going to divide. So when I punch 6 division sign 22, I'm going to get 0.272727 on and on. So step 3 is I want to change this decimal into a percentage. So to change that into a percentage, I go to the right, And so that's a percentage of 27.27% repeating. And again, it was a decrease. Let's go over to the other side, the got it problems. You're going to go through each one and find the percent of change and round to the nearest tenth if necessary, and then state whether the percent of change is an increase or decrease. So you're going to do each problem, and it's going to pause for you to enter your answer. Make sure you're paying attention to what the percentage is and if it's increase or decrease, and then make corrections when necessary. So go ahead and put your answer for number 1, work it out. What is the percent of change from 12 meters to 18 meters? All right, so 12 to 18 is an increase. So what I did first is I found the amount of change. I did 18 minus 12, and that gave me 6. And then 6 over the original amount, it was 12. So that's why I put it over 12. And 6 over 12 reduces to 5/10, and to make that into a percent, we go to the right, add a 0, and that would be a 50% increase. What is the percent of change from 27 days to 30 days? So I started by looking that 27 to 30 is an increase. So first I found the amount of change. 30 minus 27 is 3 days. And you want to put it over the original amount. It was 27 was listed first. When I divided, I got a 1/10 repeating. And so I want to make that to a percent. So I go to the right, and then it had said to round to the nearest tenth. So that's why I wrote it as 11.1%, and it's an increase. Find the percent of change from $48.50 to $38.80. Go ahead and enter your answer for number 3. And number 4, what is the percent of change from 25 pounds to 12 pounds? Enter your answer. Okay, starting with number 3, 48.50 to 38.80, I subtracted, and the amount of change is $9.70. The original amount, which was listed first, was 48.50. So in my calculator, I typed 9.7, division sign 48.50, and I got 2/10. Last step, change it to a percent by going to the right, adding a percent or adding a 0, and that's a 20% decrease. Number 4, from 25 pounds to 12 pounds, 25 minus 12, 13 is the amount of change, and I'm dividing it by the original amount, which is 25 pounds. So 13 divided by 25 is 52 hundredths. To the right, that's a 52% decrease. Let's go back over to the other page. We're going to go over percent error. So there's something called a percent error when someone is kind of estimating a value for a situation and then they find out what the actual value is. We could find their percentage of error, like how much were they off. So the formula is right here. The percent of error is equal to the amount of error over the accepted value. So it's kind of just what we just did, but it's termed differently because it's a different situation. So when you're finding the amount of error, you're really finding the amount of change, which you'll do that by subtracting. And then you're going to put it over the accepted value, which is also known as the actual value. So there was a guess, there was an estimate, we're putting it over what the actual value is. So looking at this situation, Alyssa estimates that her school auditorium has 660 seats, so that's her guess. It actually has 750 seats. What is the percent of error in her estimate? So step 1, we're still going to do the same thing. We want to find the amount of change. So I'm going to do 750 actual minus her 660, her guess, and that is a difference of 90 seats. So we want to put that over the accepted value or the actual value. Right here when it says it actually has 750, that's what I'm putting it over. And so when I type in 90 divided by 750, I'm going to get 12 hundredths. And so I want to change that decimal to percent by going to the right. So this is going to be a 12% error. Okay, I want you guys to try the percent error for number 5. The actual speed is 38 miles per hour. The estimate is 35 miles per hour. So remember, it's the amount of error, so you're going to subtract first, and then you're going to divide by the actual amount, the accepted value. So go ahead and choose the correct answer. Okay, so what I did is, first thing, you want to subtract. So I did 38 miles, the actual, minus the 35 estimated. That's a difference of 3 miles per hour. And I put it over the actual, which is 38. Then I reduced, and I got 0.0789. So I made that into a decimal, and it's 7.89, and I rounded to the nearest tenth, and that's how I got a 7.9% error. Go ahead and try number 6. Choose the correct answer for the estimated length of 45 centimeters, actual length 50 centimeters. All right, so first I needed to find the amount of error by subtracting 50 minus 45, and I got 5. Then I'm going to put that over the actual value or the accepted value, which is 50. That's why I put it over 50, because that's the answer. And so I got 0.1, then to change that to a percent, we go to the right, add a 0 and a percent sign, so that's a 10% error. Okay, you have completed the notes for this lesson. Make sure you secure it in your notebook.